Hi, we're Anna, Jessica, and Stephanie, and we'll be doing our spotlight presentation on the REDress Project. So the REDress Project was initiated in 2011 by the Métis artist and art educator Jamie Black as a response to the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. Black creates her installations using red dresses, which she hangs from various outdoor and indoor locations, and the dresses are meant to act as a strong visual reminder of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Her first exhibit was held at the University of Winnipeg in 2011. Black describes her work as being informed by and emerging from places where the social, cultural, political, and personal intersect. She uses her work as a tool for exploring and connecting questions about our current historical and socio-political framework and the ways in which everyday Canadians interact within these frameworks. The REDress Project focuses around issues of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada and uses art as an aesthetic response to this national crisis or issue. The project sought to collect hundreds of red dresses from community members by donation that would later be installed in public spaces throughout Winnipeg and across Canada. While the concept of the REDress Project remains the same, it's now on a much larger scale. You see Black's exhibits across Canada and even in the United States and the UK. Black's work has been published at universities, art galleries, museums, and other public spaces across North America and globally. Examples of these places would be the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian, the Canadian Museum of Human Rights, and the University of Winnipeg, as well as the University of Calgary. Her work has also been covered in media outlets in both Canada and globally, such outlets as the CBC, The Guardian, and the American Indian Magazine. Next, we're going to play for you an approximately 3-minute long video about the REDress Project, which is an example of where she has held one of her exhibits, and the video was produced by the National Museum of the American Indian. So I'll play that for you now.
The REDress Project is an installation art project to bring attention to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I've collected hundreds of red dresses and we display them empty in public spaces, so people are confronted with the violence, both the violence that women are experiencing, but also the presence and power of Indigenous women. You know, people will come at the installation from different perspectives and different levels of knowledge, and some people have directly experienced losing a loved one. Others come to the exhibition and the work without any prior knowledge of what's going on and what kind of violence is being faced or women are being faced by. So it just really offers an opportunity for all groups of people to come together to start having a dialogue and a conversation, and also for women and families and communities to have a space for their voices to be heard and their stories to be told. I really want to just create a space for people to come together around what Indigenous women and girls are facing across the country and even worldwide. We're calling in the spirits of the women that are lost, and like their energy and their power is here with us right now, and it's here with me in doing this work and speaking out about the violence. And they're watching, and and we're doing the work we're supposed to be doing. My name's Jamie Black, and I'm a Métis visual artist. And I got into this work because it was really important to me to use my gifts as an artist to really engage and create a platform for voices that are often silenced.
The creator of the innovative art installation, Jamie Black, cites the REDress Project as a way to draw attention to the gendered and racialized nature of violent crimes against Aboriginal women and to evoke a presence throughout the marking of absence. With over 1,000 unsolved cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada, the REDress Project's main goal, or one of them, is to bring attention to these cases by creating a visual experience using their red dresses. Another goal of the project is to reach as many people as possible so that the message and the story of these women get spread as far as possible. So she does try to have her exhibits in publicly accessible places, although some are on private property. The majority are fairly accessible for the general public. Another goal Black has for the project is to allow the general public to access these complex social issues without feeling overwhelmed. By drawing people in with the visceral image of the red dresses, they are then maybe more interested in learning the deeper meaning and then get a broader sense of the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada and abroad. In Black's own words, she states, "I hope that the dresses allow viewers to access a pressing and difficult social issue on an emotional and visceral level. Before they put up their guard, before they dismiss, we live in a world where we must make choices about the information we wish to internalize and that which we don't."
Thank you, Anna. I'm sorry, I forgot to unmute. As far as the activism goes, Jamie Black has indicated that the red dresses are deliberately left empty and hanging in public and private spaces to interact with the elements. And I liken this to much like the women who have gone missing in all weather and all terrains. It's also meant as a type of haunting, but as a destination as well for family and friends to go and to grieve. It's a heavy reminder of the missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada and in fact everywhere, as the project is now world renowned. Jamie Black says, quote, the dresses are used to call in the energy of the women who are lost. People notice there is a presence in the absence, and that's exactly what happens. I don't know if anybody has actually seen a red dress just hanging in a tree, but it's really moving. You can't help but wonder what it's for. She said she uses the color red specifically because red is very sacred and powerful, and also that red is the only known color to be seen by the spirit. So as she mentioned in the video, she's calling the spirits to come and be with her and be with us. She also said that red represents vitality and unfortunately violence as well. As Anna has stated, the installations of the REDress Project have been installed as far as London in the UK, and in 2019 to represent Women's History Month, the first installation at the US Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian, which is where the video was taken. The REDress Project has also incited other forms of activism and projects. For example, Tia Wood, she's a Cree jingle dress dancer. In 2017 at the Gathering of Nations powwow, she asked her fellow dancers to wear red dresses, and they've since carried on the practice. Right here on Vancouver Island, there's another project called the Lil Red Dress Project, and they sell buttons and earrings, and they're trying to raise money to afford signage to draw more attention to the Red Dress Project. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Black says, quote, the main goal of the project is to reach as many people as possible. It's her audience. That is literally her audience is absolutely everybody. While the majority of installations have been on campuses and in galleries across Canada and the rest of North America, she has invited the general public to hang dresses on their private property as well to draw attention. And saying that the project needs more attention. The project gets a lot of attention already, but it needs more. And the reason I say that is that her first installation was in March of 2011 when she started hanging these red dresses, but the actual pre-inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada did not even start until December 2015. So 4 years spread in between there, whereas young activists such as Jamie Black were doing something and our federal government, in fact, was not doing anything. Statistically, between 1980 and 2012, 1,181 Indigenous women have been reported missing, but people on the ground are closer to those individuals. Say the number is closer to 4,000. Just as an aside, Indigenous women are about 4% of the population in Canada, but they're about 25% of the women who go missing and are murdered. So I'll leave you with this.
So, as Stephanie has mentioned, some of the challenges are not that challenging, but some of the challenges, as Stephanie mentioned, were as Black has invited the general public to set up their own installations of red dresses. Some of these have been showing up without much explanation, and that has led to some confusion. For a little over a decade, there was another project that was also called the REDress Project down in the States that was actually quite famous with the American Heart Association. They partnered up with former, at the time, First Lady, she was the First Lady, Laura Bush, along with celebrities, and were presenting at Fashion Week for their own REDress project. So when the general public started to put their own red dresses up, there had been a little bit of confusion about 10 years ago. A lot of that has kind of subsided now, and most people associate Black's REDress Project with murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. Unfortunately, there is not quite enough awareness yet. Last year in 2019 in Vernon, Elder Wendy Chambers put up her own red dress on her front door, and as a result stopped receiving mail from Canada Post as they felt the red dress was an obstruction and they were unable to apparently get to her mailbox because of the dress. Had she perhaps had an explanation along with her red dress, that could have been avoided. She has since received an apology from Canada Post. But it just kind of lends a little bit to, as more people are doing it, sometimes that explanation to go along with the project sometimes gets a little bit lost. Another issue is it's really only awareness. It actually hasn't really reduced the rate of violence against Indigenous women or girls, and it's also fairly gendered. There's a fair bit of violence towards Indigenous men as well. I'm about to read a quote from one of its critics, Teresa Malhot. She is an Indigenous author and mother, and she wrote, "If I am murdered or go missing, don't hang a red dress for me. I think about all of the women who died that way and the others who worked their whole lives to the bone and left behind debt and deserve better. And I think about the men who died violently too. And I think about my father who was beaten to death. And I consider the violence he inflicted himself. I think about it all and wonder if there are enough dresses or symbols in the world to signify that pain and distress for Indigenous people." The final sort of challenge would be the potential for overexposure, as these REDress installations are happening all over the place, there's the risk of desensitization as people stop really thinking about the message behind them any longer because they see it so frequently. Next slide. However, that's not to say that there isn't extreme value in this project and that it hasn't been incredibly successful. As both Anna and Stephanie have mentioned, it has been displayed in Canada, the US, and in other parts of the world. It is brought global attention to both the plight of Indigenous women in Canada and in other areas of the world where they are also at a much higher rate of violence. A very heartwarming specific example of direct positive change from this project was in 2016 in Prince George. The Prince George REDress Society presented to the City Council, and City Council was so moved by their presentation that they voted and awarded $50,000 towards improving transit on Highway 16. So in conclusion, this project has brought attention to thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada and beyond. Indigenous women are still, unfortunately, disproportionately at a higher rate of violence. But the REDress Project is an example of survivance and activism. Thank you.